Across the country, BKV, 22 minutes in front of 10 o'clock. And as we've been talking about in studio, we have Daily News sports editor Nick Dettmann. Good morning, Nick.
Yeah, I was wondering why I couldn't hear myself. Okay, so we'll try this again. Hi, Bob. How are you?
Censorship rears its ugly head on the morning show, yes. Not bad, not bad. You're going to have a book signing tomorrow. We'll talk about that. But first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. We know you're the sports editor over at the Daily News, but how long you been doing that? What else have you done? And
well, I've been at the Daily News for almost 3 years now. I think we got here December of 2009, so 2.5 years, I would say. Otherwise, before that, I was in Idaho Falls, Idaho, then Michigan City, Indiana, doing a lot of the same things I'm doing now at the Daily News. So I've been kind of in newspapers, I'd say, 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. And you had a little stint in radio, you said?
Yeah, we were kind of talking before I came on. I had a little stint down at WEXT down in Kenosha. It was a country radio station down there. It was last called The Wolf. A couple years ago, it switched to a Spanish format. So
now I think that's a station that moved up a little bit closer to Milwaukee, isn't it?
I think it's still, the studio is actually still in Kenosha. I think they moved their tower.
The
tower, I think, a little further north because they wanted to try to attract the Milwaukee market, which was something the station was trying to do as a country station. It was competing against, like, you guys in FM 106. So that plan went south really quick, but they picked up the Spanish broadcast.
So were you a jock or?
Yeah, I was a jock. Yeah, I was a jock down there. And I also jock in high school, but that's a whole different type of jock. But yeah, did some on-air work, did a lot of radio promotions, did a lot of the Country Thunder events down there in Twin Lakes. So, I mean, it was a lot of fun when I was a part of it. And I really kind of miss it, actually. But I still like what I do here. But still kind of have that slight little bit in the heart for the radio because I thought it was a lot of fun. Got to meet a lot of really cool people.
Yeah, radio, I mean, it's pretty interesting. I got into it late in my career, but it's a great job.
Yeah, some people always told me I have a great face for radio. So.
I hear that all the time, yes.
Yeah, you and I both.
Well, I guess it's not surprising that you wrote a book since, you're in writing, you're in journalism. Give us a little background on this whole book thing.
Well, it was an idea I came up with about 3 years ago. I always had the vision of writing a book. I had a couple relatives that wrote a book, and thought it was pretty cool to see their name. Like, hey, I know that guy. Like, he's my uncle or something like that. I thought that was kind of cool, so I made it a goal to one day come out with one, and I just needed to first come up with the idea. Then when I came up with the idea, I just kind of sat at my computer and just let the words flow, I guess you could say. And next thing I knew, I had about 100 pages. So,
wow.
So that's when I started really looking at, okay, let's see where I can take this story and see if I can get it published. So that was the hardest part, was trying to figure out how to get it published. It took me, I think, less than a year to write the book, but it took me about 2.5 years to figure out how to get it published, either traditionally or one way I found out, which actually wound up being the way it was published, is self-publish. It's a much more expensive process, So with that in mind, you took a little bit of begging, saving, and a whole lot of loans from a lot of people that helped me out through the process. My parents, my wife's parents helped out. My sister helped out, and my wife and I obviously did our part too. So that was really the hardest part, and the part I never really envisioned having the issue with, because I always thought, okay, it wouldn't be as hard, but I quickly found out it is very hard to be published if your name's not John Grisham, or if you're not a well-established, or and unfortunately I'm not a Kardashian either, so I'm not a celebrity or a well-known author, so a lot of traditional publishing houses aren't taking the chances on new authors. So
when you submit a manuscript like that, do they usually, did you get a reply from most, or like a lot of times not even get replies?
I sent the manuscript to a couple of the traditional houses. I did get one response in one of them, and that was like 3 months after I gave it to them, which is actually about normal. They said to me, we're just not taking a chance on first-time authors. Best of luck. That was pretty much what they said. Otherwise, the other couple that I sent it to didn't even reply. But But after doing some more research, most companies want you to have an agent at first. So you first have to sell your book and your manuscript to an agent first, and then that agent has to try and sell it. So it's a very interesting and grueling process if you can get through with it. So I did a lot of research on this project, so I'll say that term a lot. What I found out is actually a lot of authors, well-known, like John Grisham, for one, he's one writer I've really enjoyed reading. He self-published his first couple books just as a kind of a way to get his name out there. And that's kind of the hope I have with this one, is say, hey, this is what I'm capable of. If somebody says, hey, what are you capable of? I can slap up the book on their desk and say, hey, this is what I've done so far. And that's kind of the hope I have with this project.
So we're talking with Nick Dettmann. He's a Daily News sports editor. He's got a book out. The idea behind the book, Nick, how did it come to you? Was it something that you had thought about for a while, even beforehand, the premise of the book, the storyline, or is it something that, like you said, I know you said you hammered it out in about a year, but when did the idea come to you as far as for the story?
I have a notepad usually sitting next to my bed at home. Which is why I usually don't get a lot of sleep, because I have a lot of creative ideas running through my head, and that was actually how the first one just hit me in the head. I thought I'd give it a shot, so I started writing down the storylines, started outlining the story, and I had like a page and a half of notes just in the 20 minutes I sat there next to my bed, or on my bed with the notepad, and I got up the next morning after I finally was able to fall asleep 2 hours later. Yeah. Because I try to lay down, then you're like, oh, I'm trying to get back to sleep here. But now my brain's running 600 miles an hour with story ideas. So I got up next morning and just started it. Just see where I can take it, and kind of went from there.
Okay. Tell us about the story.
It's about a guy. His name's Carl Robertson, 32-year-old man from rural Iowa. He grew up in kind of what he believed were unsatisfactory conditions. They thought they were very poor, even though they had the house, they had a TV. I mean, he thought with these hand-me-down clothes, and he had to share a bedroom with his two brothers, and he just didn't enjoy growing up the way he did. So he set out to find the big job with the big pay in the big city. He finally gets to that point, and then when he does, he cuts off he cuts everything off to his past, leaving it completely behind him. And then he comes across an episode in his life that gives him a reality check. If you keep going on these ways, this is what's going to happen to you. Because he moves to New York as a big city executive. He becomes very egotistical, loves money, doesn't want to go back to his poverty life that he believed he had growing up. But then he meets someone who says, hey, this is what's going to happen to you if you keep going on this path. So he'll get a chance to go back into some of the key points in his life that made him into that person that the story starts out at.
This is almost like the Christmas Carol.
It's very similar to that. Yeah. It's a very similar storyline. Someone a review told me it was just a Christmas Carol for modern times. It's not set in Christmas, so that's obviously one difference. But the premise of the story is very, very similar. I think another book I was told was "It's a Wonderful Life" is another example of this storyline. So you hear a lot of the same storylines being told, but they're just being told in different ways, and that's what I think I'm doing with this book is kind of a more modern day version of, okay, this is what could happen to you if you do this, and of course, who doesn't wonder what they could have done if they would have said yes instead of no?
Yeah. So
it kind of gives a neat chance at that.
Good lesson.
Yeah, very good life lesson, I think, and that's why I kind of put it's a life worth dreaming about. So it's the name of the book, and that's
that's nice for us to give the title, isn't it?
Yeah, it would help to give the title, wouldn't it?
a life worth dreaming about. Now, the whole self-publishing thing, I've read some stuff on that too, and like you said, it took you from the time you finished the book a little over 2 years in order to go through the whole process. And you said it's expensive. What is it nowadays, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. And we'll keep the dollar amount.
Yeah, I won't ask you. Don't worry, I won't ask you. But I mean, how many copies do you have? Like the first run or whatever, how many copies did you
And that's
print
the
out?
other interesting thing about the process is they actually are printed as they're ordered. It's not like in a traditional house where they'll print off like 100,000 copies and distribute it to wherever. That's really the hard part about self-published. Once you get the book done, is you have to do all the self-promotion. But you keep more of the royalties in return. So it's kind of what you want to get out of the project is what is the most important thing you have to decide is, okay, do you want to try and get rich off the project, or do you want to just see your name on the cover of a book, which was that was the original goal, because I thought it'd be really cool just to see my name on the front of a book sitting on a bookshelf. That was really kind of the first goal I had. And then as I was writing the book, I was really enjoying creating stories. I don't know if you've read my stories in the Daily News. I like doing stories on people. I like being able to tell stories about people's lives. And I've kind of found that nice connection with book writing, and I kind of like to see where it can go. I mean, I have dreams of being a best-selling author one day. So.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I think in your case, first you wanted to see your name on the book. Now this is kind of like you're laying a foundation for
exactly.
Future
That's kind of the goal. I mean, let's see where it can go.
Yeah. Well, we're going to give away a couple copies pretty soon, but I wonder if anybody has any questions, they can feel free to call. I'm taking this cold, so we don't know. Okay. BKV, you got a question for Nick? Yeah. Okay. All right. I took a chance on that one. Yeah. So you're going to be at Fireside.
Yeah, next to Walmart here on Paradise Drive here in West Bend. I'll be there from 10:30 to 11:30 tomorrow morning. We'll discuss the book. I'll shake hands. Love to meet everybody. I'll sign copies if you like. We'll have a good chunk there, so you don't have to worry about getting or not getting a copy, because I think there's about 40 or 50 copies sitting in the trunk of my car. So so we'll be pretty set in that department. But I'll be happy to meet everybody. I encourage people to come out. It's a really neat bookstore, too. Very easy to find. It's right between MC Sports and Walmart there. You can't miss it.
Okay, cool. And we're going to give away a couple copies. You'll personalize them, huh? So we'll take some calls off the air and give away a couple copies at 338-8622. That's 338-8622. And again, see Nick tomorrow at the Fireside. And again, what's the times again?
10:30 to 11:30 tomorrow morning.